Hello, this is Chapter 15, Cognitive Development in Adolescence. So, of course, we're going to be talking about one of our stage theorists, cognitive stage theorists, so hopefully you're thinking in your mind, Piaget. Okay, so here's Piaget. His fourth and final stage is the formal operational stage. And two major terms we're going to talk about is hypothetico-deductive reasoning and propositional thought. So you'll see some slides about those in just a few minutes. But here's information about the stage. So he talks about from 11 onward. So once you're 11 and onward through the rest of your life, you're in the formal operational stage. Again, if you think about Piaget, he constantly concentrated on what is the child's thinking abilities and how do they do their thinking. So remember the first stage? They use their senses and their motor capacities. The next stage, they were very limited, egocentric, centration. They weren't able to think in a more flexible manner until they got to the next stage. Then they could complete conservation tasks, and they were more spatial and more flexible. Well, now they're thinking, they have the capacity for more abstract scientific thinking. They no longer need that concrete evidence right in front of them. They're able to more think in an abstract manner, internally, reflective manner, and then express that verbally. So internal reflection is common, the understanding of infinite possibilities and solutions, and many times deeper questioning for, of your morals, your values, religion. Those are very common in adolescence. So more about formal operational thinkers. We have an easier time solving word problems, like understanding that negative numbers actually represent a temperature, like -20 is a number. It's below 0 degrees rather than just being negative. Understanding the concept of infinity, that two lines could go on forever and never actually touch, two parallel lines. So it's very common for teachers to assign pro and con arguments, because now we can, even if we don't agree with it, we are able to understand, okay, I have to get information about that, I have to express that, and it doesn't really matter what my own personal opinion is. So we're a little less egocentric, right? We can take the viewpoint of others. So for example, if we were given the task to debate about school uniforms and we were completely against school uniforms, but were assigned the pro argument, we would have to properly be able to organize our thoughts and express why school uniforms should be something that the school signs up for. So again, it takes understanding, and theory of mind has developed, and we're less egocentric. So here's a formal operational problem, and you guys can pause it here after you read the problem before you get the answer if you'd like. But I chose 4 friends, A, B, C, and D, Anne, Billy, Carla, and David. They want to know how many combinations of themselves can go to the school dance. So this is kind of a logical, mathematical problem. There's various ways. They can all go, that's one way. There's various pairs of 2, any one of them can go, a group of 3, etc. So try to come up with how many possibilities there are for them to go to the dance, and that's considered a formal operational problem. So again, if you want to pause now and work on that for a few minutes, you can come back and continue the video. Okay, so moving on, here's the answer page. The correct answer is 15. So each of the 4 children could go alone, that's 4 different ways, 6 combinations of 2, 4 combinations of 3, 1 combination of all 4, and all of those added together equals 15. So really, when I do this in class, I talk to students about how did you come to that answer? Did you do something like, okay, there's A, and there's B, and then B can go with C, and C can go with D, and D can go with A? Or did you do something different? Did you use some kind of mathematical equation? So just think about, that's what we've developed over time, is strategies for our brain to recognize things that we've been through previously, to assimilate those experiences, and to quickly accommodate anything new and try to figure it out so that we could reach that state of equilibrium. Now, hypothetical deductive reasoning is a very long name, just like we've seen with some of the other Piagetian terms, but the concept is something we've heard of for years. So think about it. We start with a theory. From the theory, we come up with hypotheses. We test the hypotheses, and we see which ones work, and we evaluate the results. So many students will yell out and say, oh, that sounds like the scientific method, right? So here's the scientific method. Ask a question, state your hypothesis, conduct your experiment, analyze the results, and make a conclusion. So we've been doing this probably since about 3rd grade, but we really don't get a clear understanding of it until we're more formal operational thinkers. So now we can begin with any kind of possibility. And then through actually testing things out, then we proceed to reality. Well, that's opposite from concrete children, right? This was the stage before. They had to begin with reality. If we talk to them about something they've never heard of, I don't know what let's talk about this. I know dogs. I know, my children did an experiment where they were testing to see whose mouth was dirtier, a human's or a dog's. That was something real to them. That was something they could grasp, they could see, they could test. But what if we wanted to test something more abstract? I could test the statement that all pigs can fly. Again, that's any possibility, but through testing we actually have to get back to reality. So another concept is propositional thought. So we are able to evaluate verbal propositions or verbal expressions of thought. We evaluate them based on different things. So when we are young children, we only consider them against concrete evidence of things we've already experienced. But now as we get older, we can think of more abstract and things that maybe we've never heard of, but can still problem solve and work around that. So here's an example. Luis was given the following propositional task and asked if it was true, false, or uncertain. So here's fact number 1, all animals are purple. Fact number 2, a frobe is purple. Therefore, a frobe is an animal. So it's kind of like a mathematical equation, right? 1 plus 2, does it equal 3? So we just have to accept what they say. All animals are purple. So here's a weird looking animal. And he's purple. A frobe is purple. I don't know what a frobe is. Therefore, a frobe is an animal. Well, based on these statements, again, for me, I would say it's definitely not true. I don't even know if it's false. I'm more uncertain because I don't know what that frobe is. Luis concluded correctly that whether a frobe is an animal is uncertain. A frobe might be an animal, but could also be a purple thing that is not an animal. So, it could be something like a pencil, or a cell phone, or, other various things. So because we don't know what a frobe is, but again, children would focus on, they wouldn't even know where to start. Adolescents, older people could think of, okay, because I don't know what a frobe is, then it's uncertain. Okay, so I was just explaining that adolescents are a little less egocentric, right? They have an understanding now that other people have different thoughts and opinions sometimes than they do. But they also become very egocentric again at this age because they think everyone is concentrating on them. So we're going to look at imaginary audience and a personal fable, like a story. So here's imaginary audience. It's the adolescent belief that they are the focus of everyone else's attention and concern, always feeling like they're on stage. So think of some examples where an adolescent might be apprehensive about leaving the house because everyone might see something. So think about that. Common examples are things like pimples, or their hair, or their clothing, or even, their family, if they're embarrassed of others, thinking others will be looking at us. So they think everyone's looking at them at all times. But what's funny is everyone kind of thinks that, and everyone's kind of worrying about themselves, and everyone's kind of looking. So it's not completely out of the norm, but this is something very common for adolescents to think, everybody's looking at me, so I need to always be on stage. So again, they're already thinking everyone's observing and thinking about them. And due to that, they develop this inflated opinion of their own importance. So they have this personal story that maybe no one else has ever experienced, right? So they feel special and unique. That won't happen to me. I can handle anything. So think about that won't happen to me. Pregnancy. How about things like drunk driving? Basically all those things that adolescents say, I got it, I know what I'm doing, and then they get in trouble for, right? So they think, that's not going to happen to me. I'm special and unique. And you can't possibly understand what I'm going through, typically is said to parents, right? Even though parents have been their age at a different time, but been through similar things, it's very common for adolescents to believe that they have this personal story that no one else has experienced. Okay, so there's also sex differences in mental abilities. And again, it's a highly controversial topic because it's not saying that they differ in intelligence, but in certain mental abilities. So in verbal abilities, they find that girls tend to score higher. They have an increased advantage in reading and writing. And they have a benefit from a biological advantage and more verbal stimulation. So I always find that really interesting. So because girls are biologically connected to being mothers, the role of mothers is typically, through breastfeeding and caring for the young, verbal stimulation to teach children language. So girls actually tend to have a skill in verbal abilities because of a biological advantage to use more verbal stimulation. So I always find that interesting. Again, no matter if you're a mother or not, you still have that verbal connection to just being able to have those experiences. Now, differences in literacy they've found has leading to this huge gap in college enrollment. They're finding males are a lot lower than females in college enrollment. And again, a lot of times has to do with the verbal components and the reading and writing and things like that. Now, math, again, tends not to be too many people's strengths, but many times boys have an edge over girls. So they start outperforming girls in early adolescence because it's becoming more abstract and less spatial. So girls tend to be a little bit more spatial sometimes, boys more abstract. They show an advantage in sciences, and the gap is most evident when education is equal for both sexes. So again, if both sexes have been given proper quality education, they find these gaps between boys and girls. Again, it's just through skill level. The gap is small, it's been diminishing, but hereditary information, social pressures, and parental attitudes are contributing factors. So math, for example, my mother and father are both accountants and do well in math. My brother is also an accountant, and I took a lot of math, even got up to calculus 2, but it became a little bit too abstract for me. I needed to be more hands-on, and again, that's why I'm now in child development and again dealing with more day-to-day kind of things. So I always knew my parental attitude. They encouraged math and would be happy if I was involved in math, but no matter what, education was important. So we wanted to encourage girls' interest and confidence in their ability to do math. So we want to make sure, especially at a young age, we're encouraging participation during math time in the classroom and things like that. Okay, so school transitions in adolescence. Well, grades tend to decline. Again, the more we're moving school to school, the harder it is to settle in. Many times we're moving from a school to another school that now has higher standards or less supportive teaching environments. Again, as we get older, the educational settings take a less supportive approach because they're assuming that you can work more on your own and have been through years of school and are able to do that. Girls tend to have lower self-esteem than boys, again, with many school transitions. So think about it. We typically move from elementary to junior high to high school. Now, sometimes children have multiple moves within that, so all that transitioning could be really hard. Let's see. How do we help them? Parental involvement, monitoring. Give them autonomy, but over time. Again, they need that support, structure, need help organizing when they're in a new learning environment. Help them master the material, help them work on what they need to work on, and again, planning out and being supportive throughout the way. So, again, how do we support high achievement? Authoritative parenting. Do the decision making together. The parent shouldn't be choosing the child's classes in high school. The child shouldn't be choosing their classes on their own. It should be a joint effort where they both are offering advice and input. Parent-school partnerships, that becomes also difficult in adolescence is, you kind of take a step back, but through email and things like that, you can still remain in contact. Sometimes peer support, the schools, is it a warm environment? Is there active participation by both students and parents? That's going to play a role in how well the children are achieving. Now we see, truancy and problematic behaviors, well-adjusted academic problems, but typically there's multiple issues. And then you'll go back to Blackboard. Make sure I'll put BB here so you know to go back to Blackboard for the high school dropout video. Now some strategies to help drop out, remedial instruction, personalized. Again, each child is different. We want to offer high quality training, address factors in their lives, make it more personal, and encourage extracurricular activities. There's many things that influence why we choose the career that we choose. So we want to make sure that those influences are positive. So they have their own personality. Are their parents telling them to get involved in things? Are they getting good advice from teachers and access to that information? But we go through phases of vocational development. So first it's a fantasy period. We fantasize about careers and it's guided by what's familiar, glamorous. Most early middle childhood age children want to be princesses and firemen and rock stars. But then we get to early middle adolescence and we start to now look at, okay, what am I really interested in? Like I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician because I love children. And then I went to a college day at my high school and realized, oh, it's really a lot of science, which wasn't really what I was interested in. So then I get to a realistic period, like we all do in late adolescence into adulthood and start narrowing our options. But what's really important, exploration. And we're going to focus on that in the next chapter of exploring who we are, what we enjoy, what we're good at, what we're not so good at, gather that information, and in the final phase, focus on a category. Again, typically this realistic period, we get into college, we concentrate maybe on a general category, and then start to narrow it through exploration and figuring out what works for us. All right, that is the end of this PowerPoint. Please make sure to go back to Blackboard and watch the videos and participate in the blog. Thank you.